This is the first time a G Master lens has ever been renewed for a version 2. In other words, we're looking at what it takes for Sony to consider a lens from their best line of lenses better. The original 70-200 was one of the first G Master lenses to be introduced, and ever since it has been an object of desire for many Sony shooters. It was a great lens, but the version 2 is kicking its butt. Pretty hard. These two versions of the 70-200 G Master might not appear too different superficially, but when you actually pick up the version 2, you would be forgiven if you think you just picked up a dummy unit, because it just feels wrong that an F2.8 70-200 lens weighs this little. It's only a bit over a kilo, which is over 400 grams lighter than the version 1. Handling one of these is quite a special experience because you've got this big lens up front, and somehow it feels perfectly balanced in your hands. The front of the lens doesn't feel like it wants to crash downwards, which was the case with the version 1. Now, weight distribution is not the easiest thing to show in a video, so until you get to hold one of these for yourselves, all you need to know is it's very light. In fact, Sony is claiming that this is, as of launch, the world's lightest f2.8 70-200 autofocus lens. It does remind me of the top-end 400 and 600mm G Master lenses, absolutely humongous in size but defyingly light when you actually lift it. Now, part of the reason the version 2 can be lighter is because it actually contains less elements than the version 1. But despite having less glass, the version 2 is optically superior to its predecessor. I mean, you probably already saw that coming, it's kind of how version 2 for lenses work. But still awesome nonetheless. Resolution of fine details is even better than the already outstanding version 1. There's also a pretty big improvement in terms of chromatic aberration. This is especially apparent on the 200mm end. There's practically no chromatic aberration visible on the version 2. You can also focus closer on the version 2. Close focus on the version 1 was 96 centimeters. On the version 2, that's brought down to 82 centimeters at 200mm. But it doesn't stop there. Something quite special about the optical design of this lens is how its minimum focusing distance decreases along with the focal length, meaning as you zoom out from 200mm, your minimum focusing distance will go from 82 centimeters all the way down to 40 centimeters. Considering the lens itself without the hood is already 20 centimeters long, you can get ridiculously close to your subjects with the 70-200, which again is something that defies logic on 70-200s. Now, to put that into perspective, the working distance at 70mm on this lens is in the ballpark of minimum focus on my iPhone 12 Pro Max. This close-up ability is absolutely my favorite thing about this new lens. No more missing shots with your 70-200 because something's too near. Now, I'm no optical engineer, but if I were to make an educated guess, I would say this ability would likely come at the expense of the focus shifting drastically as you zoom in and out. Except it would appear from the user's perspective that this lens is perfectly parfocal. The focus stays exactly where it is as you zoom in or out, even in manual focus mode. I believe Sony has integrated a compensating mechanism into the design of this lens, likely using the AF motors, but if that is the case, I have to say it's done very seamlessly. Speaking of the AF motors, it's another area that completely vanquishes the version 1. It's got 4 XD linear motors, which makes for some of the most snappy autofocus performance that I've only seen before in the 50mm f1.2 G Master. It is blazing fast. The focus just jumps to whatever you put that square on, and it happens so fast you can't even see the transition. I'm not exaggerating it, you're looking right at it. It's literally done focusing before I can even lift my finger off the AF on button. If you compare it to the version 1, you can see just how big of a difference it is. Sony's officially saying it is 4 times faster. There's also now a toggle switch for full-time dynamic manual focus, and the image stabilization setting has also gained a Mode 3. Now, the biggest physical change to the lens is probably the addition of an iris control ring. This does make the 70-200 a much friendlier lens for video. As usual, there's a switch to declick the ring, but if you're concerned you might accidentally bump your aperture setting off because of the ring, this particular lens offers a lock for the ring. If you turn the ring to the A position, then engage the lock, it won't be possible to physically rotate the ring out of A. The lock doesn't work in any other position, so there's that. I personally find the iris lock quite useful because I'm pretty much shooting this lens at f2.8 all the way. I am in love with the bokeh on this lens. It's creamy, it's smooth, but not to the extent of looking clinical. It's a bit weird to say this about a G Master lens's bokeh, but the bokeh does have a bit of personality to it. There's a bit of that swirly decay in the corners, and I'm quite a fan of the look. Oh, and one last thing. It's got a new hood. It's no longer a petal hood, it's got a flat edge now with the silicone tip treatment, which is a more utilitarian design that I do prefer. Here in Malaysia, the version 2 of the 70-200 G Master is launching at the same retail price of its predecessor, 11,799 ringgit. While we can all be glad that there is no price hike, I hope this also sets a precedent for the other G Master lenses that are in line for a refresh. Not just in terms of price maintenance, but also in terms of how much improvement it takes for Sony to consider their best bettered.